Today, I'm going to be talking about hiring and hiring the right way, which is really a great conversation to have. I'm telling you right now, we are embarking on such a great time in real estate. And I know it feels weird because of COVID and because of what's been happening with COVID. And yet, I really want to encourage everybody that right now, our opportunity to find leverage to gain market share is really important. And here's a couple of the reasons why. Yes, there is a shift happening, and yet the shift is a little bit different than the shifts that have happened before that are economical. Economical usually hits and it hits everybody. This shift has hit in a very weird way because it is almost like the way a tornado. I know it's a weird analogy, right? So hopefully you've never lived through a tornado, and this is a weird way to analogize this. But a tornado, you watch the news and you see it destroy a home, and then right next door is a home that's just fine. That seems to be what's happening with COVID, that there's still a lot of buying power happening within a lot of sectors. There are some of us that are having more challenges, some of us that are doing great, some of us that are thriving, and some of us who are reconstructing everything that's happening in our world. And so when I look at real estate and real estate agents, we still have such a great opportunity to help those who have the skill set, who have the opportunities to purchase homes and sell their homes and be able to find investments and do all the things that they need to do. So we're still in a good space as a real estate business. We're still in a good space. The shift is really what's happening now is that the way we've done business has changed, which that's creating a shift. And in all honesty, most of us who haven't adapted to technology are feeling it the most. There's a shift in the amount of inventory that's happening. Inventory has started to dwindle a little bit. Well, I've watched buyers start to raise up a little bit, at least in my area here in Houston, Texas. And so if we're looking at all of those elements, the ability to do the business of real estate hasn't been stunted as much in this shift. It's just the way we're doing business has been stunted. And it's causing a lot of us to feel different in the way that we're doing our lead generation, different in the way that we're servicing our clients, different in the way that we're actually going to as closing. Everything is just a little bit different. And that's causing a lot more of the shift that I've seen and that I've experienced, especially out of my office, more so than the economic shifts that have happened in the past that have really uprooted almost everybody's ability to have purchasing power. There's still a good segment of the market that has purchasing power. And with that, those teams who are really doing a lot of the lion's share of the market, right? The teams that are doing really well, they're finding themselves kind of at the end of the rope, needing to hire and needing to be able to have leverage. And so this conversation is for you. This conversation is also for the people who are looking into the future. They have a very succinct, defined, clarified mission, vision, values. And so they're looking at this going, okay, I have a real opportunity here to gain market share from my business. And so this is also a conversation for those of you who are growing in that space, that you've had the opportunity to see what is coming and be prepared for that. And so this class is for you, just so that you understand how you can start hiring the right process first, rather than making some mistakes, which a lot of us call it cul-de-sac talent. We hire somebody to perform a task, we give them that task, and they're very singular focused. They're not actually moving our business forward. They're just harboring the task, right? So none of the business is actually going anywhere. It just keeps going around and around and around the cul-de-sac. And so this is about hiring the right way, okay? I'm going to step out of the screen for a second. For any of you who want to be able to see my notes, you can screen capture your screen and catch all of the notes that I have written down. You may not be able to read my handwriting, and yet you can still take a quick screen capture so that you have all the notes that I'm going to cover today. So, all right, guys, so let's talk about it. Covering the hiring process. If I'm looking at hiring and hiring the right way, the very first thing that I'm going to tell you you need to have clarity around is your mission, vision, and values. If I don't have clarity around my mission, vision, and values, I am not certain of the leverage that I need to move my cause forward. And when I look at this, the reason why this is so important, if I consider mission, vision, values, it's the direction of my business. It's the momentum of my business. It is the future of my business. It is all built around this concept of a mission, vision, and values, and especially the vision side of that. If I have a true, clear vision, I am certain of what I'm doing and where I'm going. I had this conversation this week. Pivot has become a very buzzworthy conversation right now. I'm pivoting my business, pivot. In my opinion, our ability to pivot comes from the clarity around vision. If I don't have clarity around my vision, I'm in the idea of pivot, just throwing enough spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. And in the same vein, if I don't have clarity around my vision and where it's going, I'm truly going to hire in that same thought process. I'm just throwing enough at a wall to see what sticks. And I'm telling you this because I've seen it over and over again in all of the agents that I coach. And I coach some of the top agents, not just in Houston, but across the country. You get into this mode of, I need X, Y, and Z to be a solution in my world. And in the process of finding X, Y, and Z to be a solution in my world, I hire the person who can just perform a task. And a task is a great thing. I think there are jobs that need tasks, but if we're going to hire and hire the right way first, we need to go through a process that helps people attach to our vision and that they can actually be legacy builders within our business versus just the checkbox. To hire somebody who's going to check a box, especially early in our business, is really it's a disservice to what you're going to be capable of doing in the next 5 to 10 years. I want you to think about it. You are only ever 5 years away from everything that you want, right? What you have a dream and a desire for, I truly believe you're 5 years away from being able to see that come to fruition if you take the right steps in the right direction. Mission, vision, values, that's a first step process. And we're not going to spend too long covering that because there's a lot of great resources. I speak on this, I teach on this all the time. Mission, vision, values is clarity. And the clarity around that is the me side of it. If I'm going to hire somebody, I need to know what I'm hiring towards. And if I'm going to be hiring towards something, I'm more than likely hiring towards the things that I need. What is me in this process? Because if I just hire a task, the danger in that is that I could easily give away a big chunk of my business to somebody who could easily detach from me and walk away with that chunk. And I'm going to feel that immediately. And it may hurt my business to a very large extreme. And some of you may have even experienced this already. Clarity around mission, vision, values gets me into a space to hire the right person who I know can be a legacy builder with me in the process of growing my business. Okay. Mission, vision, and values. Second thing I'm going to tell you. So, just a quick caveat. If you are a Keller Williams agent, just because I am in Keller Williams, we have a process and it's called CV, career visioning. And I would encourage anybody, if you're in any office anywhere and you hear of CV being taught in your area, yes, it is a cost and yes, it is worth it. We have a very systematic structure on hiring people so that then we hire talent that's going to be legacy movers. We don't hire people for just creating a task, like fixing a task, doing a task job. We hire legacy movers and we do that through the CV process. Not all of us have a CV process. And so what I'm doing here is just kind of boiling these things down to help those of us be able to attach to some of the things that I might not have as a resource in my own company. And yet there's some thematics that I can pull from it and do regardless of where I'm at. And in all honesty, regardless of what industry I'm in, if I follow through with these things, I'm hiring talent that can move my business forward in that legacy moment. Okay. So on the behavior side of things, so you need to do a behavior or personality tests. Okay. There's tests out there. There's a ton of them. This is our opportunity to look at them. And so you've got like Myers-Briggs, you've got the DISC personality profiles. Gosh, Enneagram is now a big piece to the puzzle. To a lot of people are getting the feels from the Enneagram. There's a lot of tests out there for behavior. I think the best case scenario for you is to find the one that's available to you first, and then find the one that's affordable to you second, and then find the one that's most useful for your business third. And so it really does probably need to be a little bit in that order because availability to me, I may not have the availability of some of the best tests. And so I just have to deal with it. Find the ones that are available, sift through the ones that then are affordable, and then find the one that actually fits into what it is that you're looking to hire into, your industry or whatever that may be. Ours is called the KPA. It's built specifically for Keller Williams and the behavior traits of real estate agents. The DISC personality profile, I actually love it. And I train on it all the time for our agents because you can use that anywhere and from any space. Tony Robbins has a free version of taking this test. Now, they're obviously going to spam you and try to get you to be a part of their business and spend money on them. So if you just treat it like you would a timeshare meeting, you're going to listen to all their spam, but you're going to get this free disc personality profile. It's just a helping process for me to understand how you operate, because there are certain personalities that will perform in jobs drastically different. If you look at somebody who's going to be a salesperson, they more than likely need to have a very high I personality, which is that interpersonal. They need to be willing to be a social butterfly and have those conversations. They need to have some sort of like confidence built in there. Those are very specific behavioral traits that are going to fit into the job profiles that we've created. On the other hand, if I need somebody to sit down and to do a very prominent data task, well, I need somebody who's going to be data minded. I probably don't need as high as a social being in that job. I need somebody who can be satisfied with being alone and to be a little bit introverted so that they can be in and about the data task, so that then I can and they can, we can partner together and move towards what we need. So behavioral type. So the very first thing, have clarity around your mission, vision, values. The second thing, you need to do a behavior test. Don't just start taking resumes. A lot of times we start taking resumes. I was listening to a book, and it's called The Like Switch, Like switch, The Like Switch. And in this book, he was talking about in the FBI, you started to watch that like everybody was starting to look the same. They felt the same. They talked the same. And what he began to realize is that it was because the people who were in charge of hiring in the FBI all were the same person. So I'm like me. I hire somebody that's like me. Now I have somebody who's like me hiring. They get the opportunity to hire people into their team. They're like me. They hire into their team. They hire people who are like them. We're attracted to likeness. And that's just the way it is. It's in our brains. We're attracted to the likeness of things. So when you look at our ability to hire, if we do it just from a resume, we're more than likely are going to look at the candidates who fit me the best, which is not a bad thing, but that's a secondary thing. Who fits me the best is a secondary thing. The first thing is, do they fit my company? The second thing is, does their behaviors fit the job profile for that particular behavioral style? And so obviously I've used job profile a couple of times. My expectation is that if I'm going to hire somebody, I've already created a job profile. All right. So we're going to take a basic assumption that if you're going to hire somebody to be a widget builder in your world, then you've actually drawn out what a widget builder should be doing, the profile of a widget builder in your world. There needs to be a job profile. I don't mean to escape beyond that, but I'm taking the basic assumption that we understand the job profile process. Okay. All right. So we've got mission, vision, values. We got the behavioral side of things. The third thing is the interview process. This is the most important element. So now I've got a stack of resumes that's come in. I look at that resumes and I measure every single one of them based off of my mission, vision, values. The ones that don't, by their best version of themselves, which they sent through the resume, those that don't fit the mission, vision, values go into one stack. Those that do go into another stack. And then I filter into the next level. Do these people have the behavior traits that would fit this job profile? Those go into one stack. The other ones go into the other stack. Okay. You follow me? I know this is a process, and yet we always end up doing this. I'm stressed. I need somebody to help me show homes. I'm going to hire somebody. Hey, you're a warm body and I know you. Why don't you come work for me? And the worst thing is to hire friends into our businesses, especially when they don't fit the job profile. You hire the right person for the job profile that fits the mission, vision, and values of your business. That could be a friend, but it's not a friend first. Okay. It's not the friend first. It's mission, vision, values in my business first. It's a behavior matching the profile. Okay. Interview process. This is a really important piece of the puzzle, and it should fall into at least these many categories. I will tell you that I go through about 6 different interviews before I hire anybody into the business that I get to lead. 6 different interviews, and it's a long drawn out process. I want to make sure that when I hire talent, their talent that gets to stay sticky. I want sticky talent. Okay. This is how we create sticky talent. There are some people who are already sticky, and there's some that are coated in oil. Okay. So we didn't create the stickiness. We hired the sticky people. Our stickiness is going to be right here. Our stickiness is right here. It's like that hook and whatever you call Velcro. I was trying to say Velcro without using Velcro. All right. Okay, so looking at the interview process, this is about the us. Mission, vision, and value is about me. Behavior is about them. Interview process is about us. This is an exploration of us. Okay. The initial meet. In that initial meet, I'm going to tell you, it's just an interview. The initial meet is just an interview. And this can happen anywhere, in person, on the phone. It can happen over Zoom call, whatever it needs to look like. But the biggest thing to look at is this is examining the resume, and you're wanting to get to know, who are you? I'm doing my first step of the interview. I want to know, who are you? And I want to know a little bit about that resume that you just sent, because almost every single person sends their representative to their interview all the time. How many times have you hired somebody? It's like, man, this guy's the perfect candidate. Look how wonderful he is. He's so wonderful, blah, 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 blah. And they get there and their job performance is like, what in the world is going on here? Well, because we send our best representatives to our interviews. Our resumes might as well have been written by the thesaurus. We get in there and we go, I was a grocery clerk, but what I really did was I enhanced the systems and processes for extracting whatever, right? We fancy it up, we diddly it up, we dally it up, and we make it something that's really not. Okay. So if they're going to send their best representative, you need to have that initial interview to understand and examine what that resume means and who they are. So we think and we've assumed from their resume that they're going to fit into our value structure. We have conversations with them, and there's a lot of great questions. And in all honesty, if you want a list of questions, I'm not just going to blast it out there, but if you want a list of questions, send me an email, randyolive@kw.com. I'm happy to get you guys a list of the questions that we use for the interview process. You could Google questions for the interview process. A lot of questions is tell me an example of, show me when, what does this mean? One of my favorite things to ask is I will usually get somebody into an interview process and we'll start a conversation and they'll say, well, I'm a, extroverted, blah, 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 blah. And then you go, awesome. Now I'm curious, like, I hear you grading yourself saying that, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're a 10. What would your wife say you are on fill in the blank, right? So an example that I've really actually used this is I was sitting in a conversation with somebody and I asked them to grade themselves on kind of life balance. And they go, well, I'm a 2 here and I'm 3 here and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, sweet. I was like, I'm curious, if your wife was taking this test for you, how would she grade you in these areas? And what was awesome is that he gave me the clearest picture about what's actually happening in his world when he saw himself through the eyes of somebody else. And he graded himself much different when he was grading himself by the way his wife would have looked at it. And so when you get into that interview process, the very first step is to get to know who they are and to be able to dig through that resume. You want to break it apart to help make sure, do I understand that this person is who they say they are? And can I move forward in the next process? Okay. So interview, that's the first interview. Bye. If they're good to go, they get to go to the next step. If they're not, thank you. It's very nice to meet you, and move on to the next candidate. This is a slow, methodical process. And so if you've been looking at needing to hire somebody today, you need to slow your roll and to feel the anxiety of doing the job that you need to hire for until you hire the right candidate. Because if you hire fast just to fulfill the need for you to not have to pick up more slack and work more, you're gonna more than likely hire somebody who will not carry your vision forward, and you'll be firing them real soon because they actually aren't doing what you needed for your business. Okay. All right. Second part, there's the discovery meet. So this is how do you work or act? This is based off of the behavior exam, right? We took this little behavior test. And so now I'm bringing them back and I'm going to have a conversation with them about how they work. Here's my job profile, and I understand where they're going to get. I don't necessarily even need to give them the job profile. What I really need to do is understand the job profile enough that I can ask questions based off of their behavioral traits. So I can look at somebody who's a high D and I can ask them like, okay, so tell me, I know that you're a high D based off of this exam. I'm curious, do you ever find yourself to be extremely confrontational? And asking some of those weird extreme words, like if it is kind of weird, extremely confrontational is going to make somebody jolt into their space and go, well, no, like, but what do you mean by extremely confrontational? It's like, I am confrontational. You need to ask questions in a way that gets their brain to go, I need to answer this very cautiously and carefully, which means they're going to think about it. And then once they say things, you need to be picking up on some of these context clues. As somebody is out there going, I don't know. And this is obviously another way in another place to use that. It's like, awesome. Now, your former colleague that you had, what would they say about your confrontation? Oh my gosh, they would say, we've got to be able to get into a rhythm in these interviews. And so it's good to have questions, go in with these questions and to be able to go through. So it's a discovery of it. If I know my job profile and I know their behavior profile and I've done my homework and I'm going into the next meeting, having spent the time to marry those two documents, it's going to make my life a lot easier. And I'm going to be able to ask the right questions that get me moving again in the direction of my mission, vision, and values. I am protecting my business by hiring the right people. I want to hire legacy people. Okay. And so it's the job profile, it's that behavior profile. And we're just discovering, will this merge? It's going to become real obvious whether or not it will merge. No matter how much you like this person, if they don't fit your job profile for what you need, it is not the hire that you need to make. It's just true. Now, here's the other side of that coin, and I'm kind of skipping forward. You also need to understand what your compensation level is going to be for some of these folks, because if somebody comes in and they're teetering, you get through this part of the interview and you're like, they could be really great. I think they might be great if they can fall underneath doing my training and get into my leadership. That might be a true statement. There are going to be those that like are very obviously not. You may love them and their behavioral traits do not fit your job profile. That's hey, I really appreciate this interview. Let's move on. Those that teeter, here's what you really think about. If I took and I'm going to pay somebody $36,000 a year, okay? Well, I divide that by 12 and I'm paying you $3,000 a month. Well, I'm going to then be able to go, is this person worth a $9,000 risk? Because I'm going to let you go after 90 days. If you're not fitting into the mold, I'm going to let you go after 90 days. So can this person, would they be worth a $9,000 risk? And can I get a $9,000 return on my investment, at least in 90 days? Could they return an investment for what I'm going to spend on them in the 90 days so that we can discover each other in the actual grind of the business? So when you look at it that way, it makes it a lot easier to take chances on some of the candidates that you think could be there. But it doesn't mean we take chances on all the people that we interview. This is why the behavioral process and the job profile need to marry themselves. And you have to do the homework before they sit down in front of you. If when they sit down in front of you is the first time you take those two documents and put them side by side, you will not ask the right questions. They will command the interview. You will skate around the things that are the most important elements to talk about. And you'll leave the interview not really understanding the purpose for why you even had the meeting. Okay. This is a process and this is systematic. Hiring the right way is systematic. Okay. They get beyond that, they get to go to the next interview. They don't, shake hands, bye. Okay. I know you don't feel as if this is necessary. I know that because I have agents all the time. They're like, this is too much. Yeah. And so is hiring the wrong person. The wrong person is actually way more detrimental because you could technically give some of your business away to somebody who walks in that's the wrong talent. And they have power to destroy you if you hire the wrong talent and there's head clashing that happens. Some of you have experienced that. A slow, methodical process is hiring is absolutely necessary. And it should take steps. It's not just taking time to hire somebody, it's taking the process to hire somebody the right way. Okay. Next is a group meeting. The idea behind the group meeting is to understand, is it a cultural fit into your world? The only way I know if it's a cultural fit, do I have a defined mission, vision, values? Is it a cultural fit into your world? So you got to be able to get into a group interview. You remove yourself from that interview because the other side of it, not only is it a cultural interview, it's the opportunity to spot check your blind spots. Spot check your blind spots. It's the opportunity to give somebody else to spot check your blind spots. Don't mean to say spot so many times, but there it is. We all have our blinders to a certain extent. So it gets us out of the frame of, am I hiring somebody who's just like me that's going to create issues or challenges in the future? When I give the opportunity for my people who are underneath my leadership to be part of the interviewing process and to do a group interview, it makes a huge difference. Now, here's the challenge with most group interviews. Ring, ring, or email, or ding dong, whatever it may look like. Hey, you 5 people, I've got a candidate that I'm looking at. I'd like for y'all to do a group interview. Can y'all show up on Monday at 2 p.m. and do a group interview with X, Y, and Z? Everyone's like, yeah, fine, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? They're going to show up to that meeting going, yeah, fine, blah, 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 blah. If they're not prepared to ask questions, to listen to, and to figure out what this group interview is about, it will be a great opportunity for you to waste a lot of people's times. You need to prepare your team to understand what a group interview is. In a group interview, people should be walking in with questions ready to go. They should understand what the job profile is for the job that you're looking to fulfill. And so they can ask questions specifically to that job profile. They can dig in and understand a little bit more about who this person is. And a lot of times in group interviews, it gets awkward and it makes the candidate search more for answers because we can almost immediately read each other on a one-on-one scenario. You put people in a group scenario. Now I've got multiple personalities that I got to figure out. And I'm going to watch at some point, I'm going to say something for somebody that I don't match. And I'm going to watch rapport get broken. And it's going to cause me to get a little bit anxious. And I'm going to search for the answers, right? I'm going to think a little bit more clearly. And I'm going to make sure that when I say things, it makes sense. And when I say stuff that just kind of is a flyby, it's real obvious to the rest of the group. And the group can ask the next question that's going to help you go deeper. And so prepare your people. If they're going into a group interview, they should have questions. They should have the job profile. They should have a copy of the resume. They should do their homework just the same. And they should understand that number one thing that we need to protect here is our culture and our mission, vision, values. Will this person be able to sit at this table with us and protect our mission, vision, values, and our culture? And if so, they get to go to the next step of the interview. And again, I know this sounds like a really long drawn out process, and yet this is the hiring process. If you are doing this, regardless of what industry you're doing, you are hiring the talent that will last you for a very long time. Okay. Next step of the interview, if they make it beyond all this, the very next step is the job description and agreement. Can you agree to and execute my vision? Can you agree to and execute my vision? I still am not offering a position at this point. I'm still trying to find out. Now we're at the point where there is a very clear, this is the job description. Here is my vision. This is how your job is going to merge into that vision. This is the ownership that you're going to take within our company. Can I trust you to take my vision and execute it? It's a really, really important step to the process. Most people go into this moment ready to give somebody an offer letter. You've gone through the gauntlet. Surely you're good. The group interview said you're great. You're going to be great. Man, I'm believing in you. I can't tell you how many times I've been in hiring processes to where I look at this moment and I'm going, when you shouldn't have hired them is when you got into the job description and the execution of your vision and that one little bit of information that they let seep out. You should have said no right then. But you feel obligated because you've gone through this process to say, yeah, you know what? Come on, man, let's go in here. Let's do this. I know you say that you absolutely hate working weekends and 90% of our job is on the weekends. But man, I feel like we can do it. I feel like we can make it happen. It's not going to happen. We do not have the ability to change anybody. We can only change ourselves. Okay. So if you hire somebody who is supposed to take over a portion of your vision and execute it, and take that time out of your lap and put it into their world so that you can leverage yourself, right? Leveraging my time to do more, to be more specific about my business. If that is true, and I think I've given somebody that opportunity and they don't take it, I'm doing that job again. And many of us have found ourselves in this moment of looking at the job description and execution, and we go, I don't know if I can do this. I was in an interview process with a few candidates in the oil and gas world when I was doing that. And there was this gal, she was a little bit willy-nilly. And we're sitting there and we're having all these conversations about what to do next. I was young and excited about being in oil and gas. The guy to my right was excited being in oil and gas. The guy to my right was excited about being in oil and gas. This gal was sitting a little bit on the outskirts, and she just had this like urban scowl on her face of like, I'm not so sure I understand what's going on in this process. Well, 2 days later, we found out that she quit, and I reached out to her like later, and I was like, "Hey, you went very far in this process. Like, what is it?" And she goes, "Oh man, I'm telling you right now, the writing on the wall was X, Y, and Z, and I'm not going to lay it all out there for you because I'm still connected." And I was like, "Okay, I guess you just can't handle it." Well, what she predicted in that moment was very true as the job began to unfold. In the same vein, we have sat across from people knowing that what I really want you to do on the execution of this job, there's going to be a hole in it. Well, you're going to have to take back the entire portion of that job when that hole breaks down. Okay. They still don't have a job. They're still not hired with you right here. This is still part of the interview process. Okay. All right. Number 4, offer and expectations. And then obviously this signed agreement thing I'm going to get to. Signed agreement, highlighted, very big. Offer and expectations. You make the offer and you set the expectations. Make the offer, expectations. Offer and expectations. Where does your expectation sit? Right here in a signed agreement. You should have a signed agreement with anybody who's going to come in and work for your company. There's a signed agreement. This is what I agree that I'm going to do. This is agree who I said I am. This is all, like, stack it together. You get a copy of your behavioral profile, your resume, the job description, or the job description, what's happening with the job. You're going to get like, here's our policies and procedures here. Here's the signed agreement for this particular job. It should be like a stack of 7 or 8 documents that you just slap it together, put a staple in, and say, you're agreeing to do this for my company, correct? And then they go, yeah, I am. I'm so excited. Okay. Then one of the most important pieces to that puzzle, I'm going to address it here in a second, is in that signed agreement should be the exit policies, should be the exit processes. Almost every single breakup I've been attached to in the business world, the challenge came at the end of the rope when there wasn't clarity on how this thing is going to break apart. And it created way more dissension than it ever should have. Bridges burned, blown up, and just destroyed over something that could be easily resolved in the very beginning. This is the prenuptials of our businesses, making sure that, like, I want you to be here. I want you to be successful. I trust that you're going to be successful in this business. But at the end of the day, if there's ever any issues and this is not taken care of, I will protect this first. This is how we protect this first. And I think you can agree to that. And if you can't, there's not a signed offer. There's not a shine. It's not signed. And then you go start the process all over again, hiring somebody else. It is so important that when we hire, we are protecting our mission, vision, and values. Okay. So a signed agreement is absolutely necessary. If you do not have a signed agreement, you need to understand what that looks like. And you need to understand what your workforce, whatever state you're in, whatever city you're in, whatever job regulations you have, it should coincide and make sure the legalities of it is taken care of. That's not for me to tell you to do. That's not for me to coach you on how to do. That's for you to do your research as an employer to make sure that they're fitting into the guidelines for what you want. Okay. So, offer expectation. And this is really about how we win together. We actually take a document in our office and we go through and we talk about, here's how you win with me. How do I win with you? And we make sure that we are both on the same page. This is how you lose with me. This is how I lose with you. Like, we're going through and we're setting that out so that we understand each other so clearly that if I come in and I need to address something that's a challenge, we've already had the conversation about how I'm going to address that challenge. And so you cannot, because you've been given the right to have you express your how you deal best with information, you can't be angry or mad when we go through a process of, doing any kind of reviews or doing any kind of like postmortems. You can't have any challenges if I'm going in and saying, hey, I got to talk to you something about today. It's really important. I know that you said when we had a conversation that the way I win with you is to be direct. And so this is me being direct. I'm going to ask you, do I have the permission to speak on a scale from a 1 to 10? I'm going to be very honest at a 10. or I'm going to make sure that we sandwich some of this conversation as a one. What would you like to make sure that we do today? It feels weird, right? You feel like as a leader, you should just be able to go in and it's like, no, we're together. We should just be able to do this. The reality is that we need to understand how people act and react, and we need to fit in that box. If we're a true leader, we're going to always give dignity to the people who are around us. And the way we do that is to express very early, this is how you win with me. Now I want to know, how do I win with you? This is how you lose with me. Now I want to know, how do I lose with you? Setting those expectations. How do we do this thing together? Okay. This is the hiring process. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not do anything unless you're doing this first. And that's in almost every single category of your business. If you're hiring somebody, they should be going through this process. There are certain vendors that are really important in our world. I still, even though they're a vendor and they don't actually get compensated any which way from my company, will still walk through this with them to make sure that when I merge our businesses and I suggest them as a vendor to our business, that they're going to carry my mission, vision, values the way that I want to, that if they're going to represent my referral, that they're going to represent it in a way that elevates our business. Okay. Now they're hired, right? So the idea of this conversation first was foremost was hiring the right way. Once you're hired, what do I do next? That's this little circle up here. They're hired. So what do you do next? Very first thing is a 30, 60, 90-day evaluation. And on the first 30 days, you're going to do this, measure it, correct it. 60 days, you're going to correct the behaviors, and then you're going to learn this. By the time they get through 60 days, they should have learned and developed the habits of the position. Okay. Once they get through the 60 days, they should have learned and developed the habits of the position. The last 30 days, so that 90-day section, the last 30 days should be a measurement of, can you carry my vision forward with the same time frame, the sense of urgency? Are there any lacking of training? Is there a knowledge gap? Is there, like, where are all of our gaps at? And are all of your gaps right now? So you've learned the complete skill sets and the habits of the business. Now I know where the gaps are. That 90 days about identifying gaps. I know where the gaps are. Is it worth the investment in our company to improve you to fill those gaps? Or is that too much at this point, that at the end of 90 days, if we can't correct and get those gaps filled, then I need to let you go? It feels weird to talk about people this way. And yet, if I'm hiring somebody, I'm hiring them into something that's much bigger than a transaction. I'm hiring into a culture, into a relationship. Think about your friends. Your friends are more than likely a measurement of the places you have worked. We're going to spend days, hours, years, lots of moments traveling, spending time, late nights, early mornings with our coworkers. If you're running a business and you're in charge of hiring, you are giving away part of yourself to somebody. And if that's that important, you should be looking at it from a measurement standpoint. 30 days, you get to figure out what's happening. By 60 days, you've corrected those things. You've learned the habits and the skill sets of the business. 90 days, that last 30 days, I'm identifying where all of your gaps are to be able to get us moving forward in the vision of the company. And if I see that I cannot make the investment to get you there, then it's not going to continue after 90 days. I've made my investment. We've have our parting moment, right? We have an exit strategy and we're done. And then we go hire the process again. Okay. 30, 60, 90. Super important to make sure the hiring process doesn't stop the day they start. It goes on for the next 90 days. All right. Clear job description with expectations. This is a no-brainer. And I can't tell you how many people I will ask when they come to me for help. I will say, sweet, where's your job description? Let me see what your expectations are. I never got one. Then I don't know how to help you. If you never got a job description and an expectations document, then I don't know how to help you. If you're a leader and you're not providing this information, you're not leading very well. There it is. I said it. Okay. Clear, measured, timed training process. A very clear, measured, timed training process. We aren't training for forever. We're not doing this for forever. It is very clear and very concise. Here's a skill set. We need to have it by then so that we can move our jobs forward. You meet this deadline or you don't. We get the opportunity to correct it or you don't. Everything in the training process should be clear. It should be measured. It should be timed. Don't allow your people who are with you to flounder. Have conversations, be connected, make sure that they have the access to a document or whatever it may look like to have a clear, concise, timed training expectations. Okay. And then the last thing there that's written up is the exit process. There needs to be an exit process. Feels weird to write a moment about like, well, if this person may be awesome and they've gone through this whole process, but if I fire them, I need to know what to do next. And there needs to be clear guidelines on how I fire. There needs to be clear guidelines on what's going to happen if you are fired. I need a system and process set up so that there's no curiosity. I cut your email off. I cut this off. I cut this off. I give you back these things. You get a box. You can collect your stuff. Here's all the stuff you get. Here's all the stuff that we keep. Here's what you've done for us. Here's how we do this. This is what's happening. All of it's lined out very clear so that if it gets to that point and you've signed it, I'll give you this checklist here. Sorry, today we're going to part ways. This is what it's going to look like. Here's how we're going to go through the process. Already cut off your email. Shouldn't be a surprise to you because you have it written in a document that that's going to happen. We got to have an exit process. If you are doing this, you are hiring talent that's sticking with you and that's creating legacy in your business. If you're not doing this, you're playing the lottery with every single hire you make. I watched a video the other day, a guy who I think he spent like $60,000 on lottery ticket scratch offs. And he went through and he scratched all of them off. Took a long time. Scratched them all off. And he lost $15,000. It's just playing the lottery, the actual lottery. When I play the lottery with people, I'm playing with relationships. I'm playing with culture. I'm playing with business. I'm playing with my mission, vision, and values. Playing with a lot of things when I'm playing the lottery with people. If I'm hiring by playing the lottery, a lot more is at stake than losing $15,000. I could lose my whole business because I hired the wrong person. It is a long, drawn out, very lengthy process, and it makes all of the difference. I can measure great leaders by their hiring process. I hope that you are going to take some of this, put it into your business, and as you're finding business grow right now, that when you leverage yourself, you will leverage yourself into legacy and not into cul-de-sac talent that's going to check boxes. You're better than that. You're more important to that. And so is your business. So is your cause that you're doing this business for. Okay. All right, guys, that's what I have. I know that I don't have a ton of people online who are following this. Let me check and see if there's any questions or curiosities in there. And if not, we'll go ahead and let this be that. And if you have anything you ever want to have a conversation with me, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you in any way. This is what I do. This is what I love. So you guys go be amazing. I don't see anything on here in the Facebook world. I don't see anything on the Google Meet. Crystal, you're awesome. Thanks for always helping me do what I do because it helps me to be amazing as well. That right there, Crystal, is true talent. You guys, thank you. And y'all have an amazing day.